Good morning, everybody, and welcome to PSG of Mercer County. And of course, happy Aloha Friday. If you're visiting us for the first time and wondering why my shirt is out of focus, it's not. I am wearing my Hawaiian shirt as I do every Friday and usually all day. So we like to celebrate and have fun at meetings like our meeting, and so Aloha Friday is one of the ways to have fun. And another way to have fun is to celebrate the national day of the week or the day or the month. And today is National Vanilla Ice Cream Day. So it looks like it's gonna be a warm day outside here. A little later, might be a nice day to celebrate and have a little bit of vanilla ice cream. Vanilla is, I think, the most popular flavor of ice cream, but if it's not your favorite flavor, I'm sure you could celebrate with your favorite flavor as well. But vanilla has its own national day. The Professional Service Group of Mercer County, we are a group here for you, anybody that is in any kind of career transition. And it doesn't matter to us why you're in a career transition. It could be that your company had some kind of reorganization, or maybe you're going through a change on your own and decided to make a career change. And if that's the case, we are here to provide information, support, a little bit of guidance, lots of resources. We really want to help you to be as efficient or effective as you can be in your own job search. And so we have a lot of resources in place that can help you. One is we do have our website. Our website is called psgofmercercounty.org, psgofmercercounty.org. And if you haven't seen the website, or if you haven't seen it lately, you may want to go visit it. It's more than just a landing page and a place to find us online. We have over 120 web pages of content. There's a lot of information on our website. It's been growing and developing, and we've honed it over the years to be as effective a resource as it can be for anybody in a career transition. We do have right at the top a tab called Resources, and there are icons and links to over 44 different resources. They include 15 different networking groups. So in addition to a group like PSG of Mercer County, there are 15 groups that are there. There are 27 additional career resources, including career coaches and career counselors. And among them are, of course, Debra. We have her link there. So if you need to contact Debra, Alex Freund, Gary Landy, Alan Kirshner, and a bunch of others that are there as well. So if you are looking for to contact a career coach or a resource, you can do that. And we also have two wellness-oriented resources that we posted not long ago. One is kind of personal wellness, and one is mental health wellness. So if you are concerned with any sort of personal need that you may have and want to reach out directly to somebody, don't know where else to start, maybe those would be good resources for you to start as well. So we have 44 resources on our resources tab. Go take a look at that. We do also have our LinkedIn group. Our LinkedIn group is called PSG of Mercer County. So just about everything that we have is branded towards that. We do also have a Facebook group that we post occasionally, Twitter handle as well. We have Twitter, so go take a look. It is a bit of a private group. It's not a secluded group. It's not a hidden group. It's easy to find. But what happens is when you join our group, go find it in the group section of LinkedIn, press the join button. When you join our group, we put you in pending status. We don't just automatically accept. Some groups do automatically accept. And the reason why, what we'll do before we accept you into our group is we will be looking at our attendance list. And we do keep an attendance list of people who have attended our group. The GoToMeeting does let me know people who've attended. And we make sure that anyone who has requested is either currently in our list or was just added to our attendance list, because we're trying to keep out the name collectors, the list collectors, people that are just looking to join groups for collecting groups or getting access to the people in the groups. We're trying to keep the salespeople out, the salespeople that are benefit only for themselves. Of course, if you're searching for a sales position, that's perfectly fine. So we want to keep it all people interested in our mission. We have over 1,680 members. It's a lot of members for a group like ours. And what's nice is once you join the group, you can then contact those individuals through the group, even if they are not yet your first degree connection. So as you're doing your job search and you're looking for connections at maybe the company you're researching or about to interview with, you may see that there's somebody in our LinkedIn group that's at that company. You may want to reach out and ask them a question about the company and the organization and the hiring manager, whatever. And even if they're not a first degree connection, you can contact them because you're a member of our group. Normally, you cannot connect with people that are not first degree connections, or I should say you can't in-mail them unless you have premium, but you can when they're in a group. And start contributing, because LinkedIn really likes active members. And you could start as simple as read one of the posts or articles that someone wrote and just click the like button. That's a good way to start. Or maybe you could put a comment like, thanks for sharing. That's a nice way to start. Even if you don't have a more active comment to write, or you're not ready to share your own post or article, be a little active that way. Also, maybe you got an email last week of a terrific job, but it's not for you. It's just not in your specialty. It's not in your industry. You may just copy the content right out of that email and paste it into our group so others know about the job leads. Every once in a while, people send me jobs they find and ask me to post it. And I get enough of those that I don't do that. So I just remind them, post it yourself, put it in our LinkedIn group, share it that way, so you'll be active as well. So that's some of the resources that we have. And like I had mentioned before, do make sure that you are keeping your microphone on mute until we recognize you to allow you to ask one of your questions. We will be using chat for questions. You can either just simply write the word question in the chat box by writing the word question, then I'll see it and just excuse myself and let Debra know there's a question. If you prefer not to turn on your microphone to speak to Debra after that, type the word question followed by your question and I will read it out loud. And the reason why we ask you to write the word question, it allows me to see the questions that are posted separate from all the other comments that people do put, because some people do share their intros and their elevator pitches and their LinkedIn profile. So it allows that to stand out for me. Okay, so I think we are ready to go. And PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome back Debra Wheatman. Debra is the founder and president of Careers Done Right, a marketing and personal branding company. With her background in corporate human resources with financial services, advertising, and media and entertainment companies, Debra guides clients to establish and reach goals aligned with their professional needs. Debra works in career management, leadership strategy, interpersonal engagement, and change management in post-merger and acquisition environments. Debra holds a Bachelor of Arts in Communications from Adelphi University. She's a certified professional resume writer and certified professional career coach. She's been featured on Fox Business News, CNBC, Forbes, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post. Her forthcoming book on career planning and personal branding, yet to be titled, will be published later this year. So PSG of Mercer County is always pleased to welcome someone who has done right for a long time, Debra Wheatman.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's so nice to see all of you. I am excited today because we're going to be talking about money and negotiating. You probably have all heard of Eat, Shoots, and Leaves, the book. So there's two things here. Money matters and money, matters. And both of those things are really, really important in terms of your negotiation, in terms of your strategy around money, in terms of everything you do related to the world of work. Before I get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story that will sort of set the tone for the rest of our time together today. I have a client. She landed a new job, and originally she was from San Diego. So if you know the climate in San Diego, you know that it is beautiful there pretty much all the time. It's sunny, it's temperate. She got an offer to relocate to Michigan. If you know anything about Michigan, you know that in the winter, it is freezing there. In fact, it gets so cold that people actually don't go outside. they walk through tunnels to get to different places. This woman, single mother, living in San Diego, she got an amazing offer in Michigan for a very, very big company. So what happened was they made her an offer sheet. They went through the whole process. They made her an offer. She provided a range. And what did the company offer her? Well, they offered her something within the range. Okay, fine. But it was at the low end of the range. Now, remember, she lives in San Diego. She's got this beautiful climate that she's living in. She now needs to relocate all the way to Michigan, to a very cold place in the winter. And it's not just the winter, because it stays cold there a long time. Their summer is very short. She is a single mother with a child, and she's going to now relocate, okay? They make her an offer, but it's at the low end of the range. Yes, it's within the range, which is perfectly fine, but not really good enough, because what they should have done was offered her something at the top of the range. Now, they're saving money by offering her something at the lower end of the range. So she calls me up and she says, so I'm going to accept the offer. And I say, no, you're not. You're not going to accept that offer. That offer is not good enough. You need to move, and you're leaving money on the table by simply saying okay and not negotiating on your own behalf. Fast forward, we decided that she was going to negotiate. She went back, asked for more money that was at the very, very top of the range. And what happened? Well, they gave it to her. That was a $30,000 increase over the original salary that they offered her. I don't know about you. I don't know anyone who can't use an extra $30,000. And the reason why it's important to negotiate in your salary is because signing bonuses and all of these other things, they're not recurring. It's a one-time payment, which is nice, no doubt, but it's better to get it all the time. So that's why negotiating on your own behalf is so, so important. With that, we're going to talk about money. Humility has no place in a salary negotiation. This is about you. It's about the understanding and the value you place on yourself and how you position yourself for these new opportunities. You should be getting as much money as you can in your salary. The first offer, most companies know that that offer, while nice, people are not going to accept the first offer. It's a negotiation, and you're going to want to negotiate on your own behalf to make sure that you get as much money as possible. You are leaving money on the table if you don't negotiate. More than 50% of US workers claim that to have not negotiated. 52% of men and 2/3 of women. And it should come as no surprise, a lot of times women are much more reticent to negotiate. Not only that, and you probably know this as well, but they also don't apply for jobs for which they are less than 100% qualified. Both of those things, not good. You should be applying for things even if you're not 100% qualified. That's okay. A lot of the things in the descriptions, you know, they're putting everything that they want. They're not going to get everything that they want. Also, negotiating on your own behalf will allow you to obviously get more money, but also over the course of your working career, that money adds up. You could be leaving on the table over $600,000 by not negotiating on your own behalf over the course of a career. That is a lot of money, and you don't want to leave that. At some point, everybody needs to retire. People want to do things. People like things. They want to travel. They want to buy stuff. They want to do things that this money will allow you to do, but not if you don't negotiate. Will you get it all the time? No, but you have to ask. Anybody have any questions, David, yet? I think I see that there's some questions maybe.
Well, there's comments, but not questions for the program yet. Yep,
all right.
I'll keep an eye.
Okay. All right, no problem. So only 25% of those earning under $50,000, they receive, okay? They're receiving the money, right? Oops, sorry. I gotta get myself organized here. Bear with me a second, please. Okay, so only 50% received the raise that they requested, and 70% of those earning more than $150,000.
Deborah, you're not showing your slides.
I'm not showing my slides.
I see your
Okay.
browser.
All right. Let's see. What about now?
That's it. Yeah, make that full screen and you should be fine.
Okay, I'm better now. All right. Millennials and Gen Z, they worry about being pushy as a cause for not negotiating. It isn't pushy. What you're doing by negotiating is you're working on your own behalf. You don't want to just take the first offer. And again, sometimes they might say to you, you know what, this is all we have in the budget. We can't go any higher. And then it's up to you to determine if in fact that offer is okay for you, or if in fact you decide, you know what, I'm going to keep looking because I believe, and based on the skills that I have and the talents that I offer this company, I believe I'm worth more money. It's not like you're demanding money when you negotiate. And I will also tell you that it is unlikely that a company will rescind an offer if you negotiate. One of the most important things that you can do as part of negotiating on your own behalf is the research. I talk about research all the time. I talk about it as part of developing your brand. I talk about it as part of interviewing. I talk about it as part of social media. It's the fundamental part of just career development and job search overall. Why? Because if you do excuse me, if you do the research, you will be informed. You will understand what your position is, and you won't have to worry about going in blind on anything. That's why the research will set you free. You can use tools like Glassdoor, Salary.com, PayScale, and others. Go to your network, of course, and do the research. Speak to people. Go to industry. Figure out from your research what some of these companies, what the range is for the positions that they're filling. And if you're using LinkedIn, sometimes it's on there. Not always, but sometimes it is. And then if you go to your network and you do some other research, speak to people, do the research online, you will come away with an understanding of a range for the position. So you're not operating blind. When you do start to negotiate and you do speak with people, have not only a range, but have a number that you use. So for example, if someone says to you, what are you looking for? What's the number you're looking for? Your number should not be, I'm looking for $35,000. That's a round number. It doesn't really inspire that you've done any research at all, versus saying, I'm exploring opportunities in the range of 35,515 to 42,730. That is much more specific. And the reason why that will work for you is because it is specific. And anyone would be like, oh, wow, this person really, they did their research. They figured out what the range is for the position. And if somebody says to you, well, where did you come up with that range? What's your answer? Well, I did the research. I've spoken to other people. I've looked at the industry. I've looked at the market. And based upon my research and what I've learned, this is the range for the position.
Excuse me, Deborah.
So a few simple strategies.
Yep, we've got a question from Jean.
Please.
How do you approach a situation when the organization gives you a range prior to the interview and the range is substantially lower than what you would accept?
Oh, that's a great question, so thank you. So at that point, you need to make a decision, right? You have there's a path you can take. You could either say to them, I'm looking for a position that is in this particular range based upon my skills and what I have to offer and the research I've done in the industry. And at that point, they might say, okay, well, we're flexible, or no, this is what it's going to be. And you then have a choice. You could say, I don't think that this is going to be the right fit for me then based on that, right? Or you could say, obviously, you're going to continue on. And if you decide that you want to continue in the interview process, maybe you say nothing. But if it's substantially lower, it's unlikely, based on the word substantial, that you're going to come to a place where you're going to be satisfied, right? Because the word substantial means that there's a very big gap between what you're looking for and what they're offering. Now, it might be that, and if you've done your research, you know what your worth is, right? And you know what the market will bear. It might be that the company that you're targeting or that you're interviewing with at this time is out of touch with the market. And at that point, that's a decision point for you. Does that answer your question?
So Jean, yeah, that was from Jean, so she wrote it. You're welcome to unmute. We do have another question.
Yeah, that did answer my question. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And also Jim has a question. What are your suggestions for someone age 60 or older who has been unemployed for over a year?
In terms of negotiating or something else?
So Jim, do you want to clarify the question?
In terms of negotiation.
Okay, so if you've been unemployed, I have a couple of other questions. Are you interviewing? Are you getting interviews? At that point, a year, normally I would say a year. Sometimes it takes a year, right? Sometimes it takes longer. You might want to, sort of rethink a little bit what you're willing to take, right? If it's coming to a point where you feel that you're feeling the pressure to take something, you might want to reconsider your strategy in terms of what you're willing to accept and come up with a number that you just absolutely won't go below at that point. And also, of course, when you start to interview, of course, as I mentioned, do the research and negotiate as much as you can on your own behalf. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you. Yes, it does.
You're welcome. Okay.
Sharon has a question. What should you do when the company says the salary offered is non-negotiable?
Up front, they say that up front, it's non-negotiable.
Yep, I've had that happen many times where they just say the salary is what it is.
Everything's negotiable. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. And if they won't budge, then you have a choice. You can either choose not to take it, right? Or you can say, okay, I'm going to accept. But I wouldn't just sort of let that go. I would encourage you to say at that point, well, I'm looking for a salary that is closer to this. Is there an opportunity to negotiate closer to that number? Would you mind going back to the hiring manager if you're not speaking with the hiring manager and you're speaking with someone else in the organization and asking if that is a possibility? If you don't ask, you don't get. There's a lot of situations where people sort of try to draw a line in the sand to deter you from negotiating, even when there's room.
Okay.
Good.
And we actually have two questions that are related, so I'm going to read both of them. The first is from Sam, and this is your first bullet that's displayed. Is it true that the person that first says a number, the dollars, puts himself or herself at a disadvantage? And the related question, if whoever starts first loses, how are we to handle the screening call from HR? I've been removed from consideration because I did not want to be the first one sharing.
Right. And I understand that, and I can appreciate that. Why should you be the first one to share? They obviously have an opening or they wouldn't be talking to you, right? So they have a budget already set for the role. The ideal is to find out what that is instead of being the first to speak, because then you're kind of in a lose-lose situation. You're either possibly too high or too low, neither of which is good, which is why trying to identify what the budget is important for you and will allow you to operate in a position of strength. Now, if in fact it's coming to the point where you're feeling like that friction point, you can, as I spoke about in the previous slide or two previous slides, come in with a range like, I am pursuing opportunities, not this is what I'm earning. I am pursuing opportunities between $35,515, and $42,750. So then you're giving yourself an opportunity not only to negotiate, but to provide a broader window from which you can operate, as opposed to saying, I'm earning $37,200. Does that make sense? Ideally, you want to say to someone to whom with whom you're having a conversation, can you share a little bit more about the organization, the company, its goals, and the budget for this role, as opposed to just directly answering that question. And there are certain states where you're not allowed to ask anymore what someone earns. It's actually against the law.
And actually, New Jersey and New York are among those states. You can't ask salary history, cannot.
Correct. You can't ask salary history anymore. There's a number of states that have that law in place now. And it's for this part of it, it's for this reason, to prevent situations where people are then entering a company and not being compensated appropriately or fairly for what they're going to be doing and the value that they bring. It's part of it is because of that. You don't want to say yes immediately to an offer. You should always think about it and don't, rash decisions, essentially. Think about the offer. Maybe you have more than one offer, or maybe you want to just sleep on it overnight. There's nothing wrong with that. I've had clients call me and say, well, the company told me that I have to give them an answer today. To me, that's a red flag. Everybody has their inner voice. Everybody, we all have things that speak to us internally. You should be listening to your inner voice. That's a red flag if a company says to you, we need to have an answer today. Likely they took weeks to get back to you. They probably left you hanging. You probably had to follow up innumerable times. You probably heard nothing in some situations. And now, all of a sudden, they're insisting that you provide an answer pretty much on the spot. That is not a good way to enter a company. And that type of behavior is a window into how that company or manager behaves. And you should really be listening to those cues. Don't be afraid of rejection. You know what? Not every negotiation is going to work in your favor. And at that point, you'll make a determination if, in fact, you want to take the offer or not. My daughter recently, she's junior, she's entry-level candidate. She accepted an offer working for a medical company, and they offered her a salary. And I said to her, go ask for more. She didn't want to do that. She's young, she's 22 years old. And I said to her, no. Go tell them this is what you're capable of. This is what you're going to do for them, and tell them why that you should be getting more money. She did that, and they gave her more. Not a tremendous amount more, but it was more. And everybody has the capability of going to ask for more. I get that it's not always a comfortable thing to do, but it's something that you should be doing for yourself. If you think about the short and, of course, long-term ramifications of not negotiating, I can assure you, you will quickly overcome that fear. Back to my $600,000 in the earlier slide. Start higher. Always start higher, because you'll come to a middle ground. Always start higher.
Excuse me, Deborah. Patrick has a question.
Yes.
Excuse me. So, Pat, if you'd like to unmute and ask Deborah.
Hi, Deborah. My question is simply this. If you get to the point where the salary is you accept it, okay? You've been through partly in a negotiation, et cetera, is this the point at which you might, in terms of benefits, you might bring up some other things, like, okay, you won't give me $5 more, but how about an extra week's vacation, et cetera, et cetera? Would this be the point where you would bring that up?
Yes. So, I would like an extra week's vacation, because that's money, right? Everything is equivalent to money, because those benefits, the vacation, you're getting paid for that time. So it is money. The other thing that you could consider asking for is a signing bonus. Again, that's a one-time payment. It's not recurring, so it doesn't go to your salary, but that one-time payment, that's a good thing. Maybe if you're in a position or a role where there's like, you have to use a car or whatever, maybe you can negotiate a parking spot, or maybe you can negotiate something related to a car allowance or something similar. So there is nothing that can't be negotiated, nothing. Does that answer your question? I imagine that it does.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
And
Okay.
Jean is asking, do you give a number or a range?
I would say use a specific range. That way you're not locked in, right? So if they say, okay, we'd like to offer you a position, Jean, the salary is 37,000. You could simply say, thank you, I appreciate that I'm very excited to join the company. Here are some of the things that I expect to immediately contribute. And as a result, I would like to know if there is an opportunity to move closer to 42,750, which is what my research has told me is more aligned with the role that you're seeking to fill. So you want to move closer to the higher end of that range.
Okay.
And
And
if you
Jean
go
had
to a more specific number, clearly you're saying that you've done the work to understand where the market is for that role.
and Jean has a follow-up. How do you know your options in terms of what can be negotiated?
Well, if you've done your research, you probably know, and if you've spoken to people internally, which you may or may not have that opportunity. So vacation is something that, is an option. Usually that's an option, right? Signing bonus, usually an option. Perhaps you've done research on Glassdoor and you've read things that other people have shared about the company, because Glassdoor does publish a lot of information, not only about people who have worked at a particular company, but they also publish content about people who have interviewed there. So it might really serve as a good basis for understanding a number of different things about a particular organization.
Terrific. And Bill has a question. So Bill, if you'd like to unmute.
Okay, sure. When is the negotiation over? I think something Pat said spurred a thought that if you're going to ask for extra vacation or the sign-in bonus or whatever else, doesn't that have to all happen before you accept the position?
Of course. This is part of the negotiation. So you get the offer, you thank them. You might ask for more. You're going to ask for all of it, right? You're going to say, okay, so I'm really looking for X, Y, Z, and I also would like an additional week of vacation, right? So you're going to ask for those things up front before you actually say, okay.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
And Alan has a similar question. Do you wait to get a written offer before starting the negotiation?
You don't need a written offer before you start the negotiation. However, you do need a written offer. You should never accept an offer without having it in writing. And of course, I'm sure you're going to be shocked to hear that I have a story about that. And I'm going to share that with you now. I have a client who was interviewing for a position, and he was interviewing for 3 different roles, 3 different companies, 3 different positions. One company said to him, we're going to extend you an offer, and it's going to be a hard offer, and that offer is coming. We want you to pull out of the other 2 things that you're pursuing. We want you to stop. We want you to tell those companies, I'm getting an offer and I'm not going to be entertaining anything else. So he did that, which he called me on a Saturday morning to tell me that they were giving him this offer and he pulled out of all of these other things, these 2 other things. I nearly had heart failure, because you should never do that. He didn't have a written offer, and he didn't even have an offer. They're saying, we're going to make you an offer. Of course, what do you think happened? Something happened whatever that was, and the offer was not forthcoming. The things that he was interviewing for over here, he had already pulled out of those, so he had nothing. What he should have said was, no, I'm very happy that you're going to be making me an offer, and that's wonderful news, and I'm really excited. I would like to know what that offer is, and before I pull out of any other interviews in which I'm currently in the running, I'll need to see your offer in writing. So that was a hard lesson learned. He's now interviewing again, which is great, and I know he'll find something soon. But these are the things that you need to think about. You should never pull out of other interviews because someone says they're going to make you an offer. There is no such thing as an offer until I see it in black and white. That's an offer. Yes, verbal, great. I need to see it in writing, and so should you. The offer is not going to be rescinded, okay, just because you ask for more money. It just isn't. That is not going to happen. You are worth that much and more. Every one of you, every one of us, we are all unique and special and wonderful and smart and talented. You are worth it. You're worth every penny plus, plus, plus. Don't sell yourself short. You don't want to cause the company financial strain. I've heard this. What about your financial strain? What about the impact to you or your family? That's what you should be worrying about. You should not be worrying about the company. That's not your problem. That's their problem. Salary negotiations during the interview. This is the time you're going to negotiate. If your salary is $60,000 per year and you're internal, you're already like working in a company, they're going to 2% you to death. Okay? It's when you leave generally, that's when people realize the biggest increases. You're never going to organically reach 60 if you're starting at 35, ever. Because as I said, companies, once you start working there, sure, can you get a pay raise internally? Yeah, you can get promoted, and there are other ways to do it. But as you progress through in a company, and if you start to look outside, you begin to see the chasm that exists between what you currently earn, even if you've gotten a raise, and what the market bears, okay? Leverage that short window between being offered a job and agreeing to take it. And I talked about this just before. You don't have to accept on the spot. There's no problem. Take some time to think about if in fact the offer is good for you, if you want to take it. There are other things about the job that you need to consider. It's not just the money, right? Do you like the environment? Is the culture a good fit for you? Do you think you'll be happy there? When you start to interview, and this is an important point, it's not about negotiating, but it is really about the overall landscape of your work and the offer. Speak to other people internally. Don't just take it on blind faith. When you first start interviewing, it's the honeymoon phase. Everybody's in love. Speak to other people and really get the 411. When you speak to other people and you have the opportunity to do your due diligence, you learn a lot of things. You learn a lot of things from what people say, and you also learn things from what they don't say. A lot of times a company will come in with a lower figure deliberately. They're trying to save money, but you're trying to get the money, which is why negotiating is so important. Questions about that?
So there's one question from Amitava. What if the company wants a verbal confirmation before sending the written offer?
Fine, give them a verbal confirmation. A verbal confirmation is just as good as a verbal offer, right? There's nothing that binds you to a yes, I'm accepting. Just like they could easily, say, well, we're offering you a job to this poor dude that I was talking to about a moment ago, and then not come through. So, okay, I'm going to think about it. Yes, or you make your negotiation. Okay, everybody agrees. We're all happy. Yay, yay. Then they're going to send their written offer. At that point, If you have since decided in that 24 or 48-hour period that you're like, you know what, I've decided I'm not gonna accept this offer, you know what, thank you very much, I've actually reconsidered.
Okay. Andreas has
Okay.
a question. What are your thoughts on a company or business that says the impacts from the COVID pandemic as to why I shouldn't ask or expect any raises, in other words, a wage freeze, for at least 6 months to a year?
The answer, no, hard stop. If they're making money and they're generating revenue and they're generating sales and their margins are good, that is just an excuse. That should not stop you from asking.
Okay. Sam has a question. How do you tactfully deal with a company who asks your salary history? This is an illegal question in many states, including New York and New Jersey.
So if they ask for salary history, you can respectfully decline and say, I don't believe that my salary history is relevant to this discussion because what I made previously, given the economic conditions in the market, given the depth and level of my expertise, should play into that discussion. It's like asking someone when they graduated college, because that doesn't have anything to do with your ability to perform the essential functions of the job. Knowing what you made yesterday or last month or last year or 5 years ago has no impact on whether you can do the job over here today. The two things completely not related.
And I think it's actually a timing issue as well, because I believe in both New York and New Jersey, and different states vary, they can ask salary history after they make an offer because they use it as a validating or reference check. So some states, municipalities do allow that, but not before, not part of their decision process. So make sure you understand when they're asking.
Correct, and get your offer in writing.
Yep.
So you've already accepted, you have it in writing, you're taking the role. Then if they want your history, okay, fine. There's no problem, you have your offer. Okay, moving on.
And well, Gene has a question, but he's going to have to clarify. How do you handle the interview question from recruiters? Why is it that they are always trying to bargain salary prior to presenting an opportunity? I guess it's how do you handle the salary question from recruiters?
So again, and I think it's probably, in my opinion, right, and from my experience and the things that I've learned over the past 17 years, it's actually easier to deal with them. Yes, they're representing their client, right? But it's a little bit easier because you could sort of, I think you can push back a little bit more with recruiters and say, you know, this is what I'm looking for, this is the range I'm looking for, and try to have them advocate on your behalf. They want to fill the position. Their interest is in getting their fee, right? So if they find the right person and you're the right person for the role, they want to put you in that spot. They want to get paid for the work that they've done to identify you as the right candidate. So their interests, while yes, is for the client, but they're getting paid on your placement. So you have a little bit of the upper hand in this case to say, this is what I'm looking for, and you know, I would like to know from you, what's the top of their range? Ask. You'll never get the answer unless you ask.
Terrific, thank you.
Welcome. Negotiating during annual reviews, and I think someone asked this a little bit, or maybe it was tangential before. There's always an opportunity for you to negotiate during your annual review and annual discussions. However, you shouldn't wait until the annual review. By that time, the budgets are already set. You need to start this process well in advance. I'm talking 6 months. Start setting the table with plates and dishes and cups and silverware of what your expectations are, what you want. And to that end, I would also say that you should come prepared with, and my all favorite, the list of the wonderful things that you've done. You should be keeping track of these things, write them down. That way you are articulating and doing it clearly and in a really meaningful way all of the amazing things you've done. So those discussions, you want to start having these discussions in advance. Be prepared with your research, right? From the market analysis you've done over the time to make sure that you're coming in with numbers that are justifiable. Key areas of performance, you're going to negotiate, and you're going to be able to take all of that information and bring it to that request as part of your annual review. Again, you do it in advance. If you wait until the annual review is upon you, you are going to get the 3% or the 2% or whatever it is that they're doing, okay? You need to set the table and the tone in advance that the 3% or whatever is the norm for that company is not going to work. That way, your manager, your boss, whoever the person is in the leadership role to whom you report understands that they are going to need to go to bat for you. I know everybody tells me talking about money makes them nervous. They're like, it's really just a discussion. And I did just yesterday, a video that I think is kind of timely. It wasn't about negotiating, but the theme is still relevant here. It was on interviewing and the nature of interviewing. And one of my points was, it's just a conversation. An interview is a conversation between two people. And that's how you should think of your negotiation. It's a conversation between two people where you're looking for something. A lot of times people have no problem asking their friends, their network, things, can you, do you, will you, have you? They're looking for assistance. This is just another way of you providing assistance to yourself. Rehearse common questions, be prepared. And back to my slide right before this one, being prepared is going to deliver 99% of the results. Because if you know all of the good work you've done and you're prepared to talk about all of your wonderful achievements, if you know what the market bears, if you have and are coming from a place of knowledge, you will absolutely crush your negotiations. Come from a place of confidence. Be confident, happy, smart. Be strategic about what you're looking for, why you're looking for it, and have the information to back that up, and you will be successful. Are you going to get $50,000 more? Maybe not. Will you get $20,000 more? Possibly. Maybe even yes. But two things I will tell you that won't give you that if you don't do them. One, obviously, if you don't ask. And two, if you're not prepared. I know I talk about it all the time, and probably people are like, okay, we got it. The research and the preparation, that is the stuff victory is made of. If you research, if you're prepared, literally, I guarantee you, I've never had one person that wasn't prepared, that didn't do the research, that didn't realize some measure of success. Any questions about that?
Not right now in chat.
Okay. Practice. If you're nervous, don't be afraid to practice. Practice in front of a mirror if you don't feel comfortable doing it with someone else. Practice with a coach, practice with a friend, practice with a partner, practice with your significant other. But do some practice, that way you get your pattern down. I don't want you to sound robotic or monotonous. You want to have some personality injected into this, but practice makes perfect. Your plans. I love telling people to prepare even when they're first interviewing for a role, which I think is like one of the secret sauces. Prepare a 30, 60, 90-day plan of what you're going to do, what the anticipated outcome is. All of this preparation speaks to your expertise. Doing this not only in your negotiation, but just as you begin to interview for things, it works. I promise you it works. Every time I have a client that interviews and I say, did you prepare your 30, 60, 90? Bring that to your interview. 100% of the time, they've gotten the offer. Every single time. Even when they were the underdog, they've gotten the offer. Why? Because people don't think to do this. They don't think to sort of go the extra step. It's important in not only your interviews, but also in your negotiations. Come prepared, armed with the information that demonstrates what you're going to do, what you did, how you did it, and why it was impactful. It will impact the status of your negotiation, and it will allow you to operate from a position of authority. That's a very critical thing. You want to be realistic, under promise, over deliver. That's the recipe. You don't want to leave those things out. But the 30, 60, 90 day plan, it's a great way to help you negotiate. Think about what you're looking for in terms of the salary that you're trying to seek. Think about the things that you did over the course of the last 6 months, the last 30, 60, 90 days. Because for a lot of companies, there's a short window of memory, right, for every one of us. People remember what you did yesterday, not what you did 3 months ago, which is why writing all of these things down is so, so critical. But bringing that information to your negotiation will help you. It will put you in a position of authority. If it isn't in writing, it didn't happen. Writing things down is critical. And people have asked me this question now. A verbal offer is not as powerful as a written one. Yes, as I mentioned, verbal offer, great. And Jean's question, I think it was, you can say yes to a verbal offer. You can absolutely say yes, but you must get it in writing. You must get it in writing. A paper trail, it truly is your best friend. Sorry, my dog was sitting with me, and now he wants to get down. It's not a war, okay? The manager is not your enemy, and nobody is looking to do you in this situation. Follow the common rules of decency. You obviously, as we all know, if you're nice about things and you're respectful and you do it in a way that allows you to demonstrate really what your key attributes are and what your key achievements are, you will realize more success and more immediate success than you would have if you're combative about it. Okay, because I do know people that are like, oh, well, that offer's not good. You wouldn't want to approach your negotiation that way because it puts people on the defensive. Rather, what you want to do is, yes, thank you so much. I'm really pleased to hear that an offer is forthcoming or that you're going to be offering me, or this is the offer. I would like a day to think about it. I'm really happy. I'm excited to make a contribution. I need a little time to mull it over, and I'm going to get back to you by Wednesday or whatever it is. At that time, you could say, I've thought about this and I am super, super excited. Here are a couple of questions that I would like to run by you as part of solidifying this negotiation. And then ask.
Oh, excuse me, Deborah.
Yes.
So Bill has a question, which is, what is a good typical 30, 60, 90-day plan? Can you give an example?
So I would love to give you an example. It's different for each person, though, because it's really dependent upon what kind of environment you operate in. And it's also dependent upon what you've done, right? So, or what you're planning on doing in that environment. Generally speaking, I am a huge fan of metrics, numbers, things where you can actually demonstrate what you've done and what you're going to do and what the potential outcome is going to be. So for example, if you're coming up with a 30, 60, 90, you're going to say in the first 30 days, I am going to, write this particular operating policy. In the next 60 days, I'm going to train the department on this policy and move towards implementation. In the following 90 days, we're going to implement the entire policy and we're going to measure the KPIs against what the policy is to ensure that we reduce incidents of slip and fall. So that's one thing that gives you here's my idea, here's how I'm going to execute it, and this is going to be the potential outcome.
And there's
Does
a
that answer your
follow-up question from Jean, which is, how do you craft a 30, 60, 90-day plan if you don't know the organization's priorities?
Well, that's part of your research and it's part of your interview process. I know people who have interviewed. I have a client, he interviewed with Microsoft. Do you know how many times he interviewed? 17. 17 times. Ridiculous. I got the sense that they were moving in with him at the end.
Wow.
Okay? Yeah, ridiculous. I mean, you need to bear down for a real, like a patience, like a level of patience where you're literally like, because some of them are just going to keep you like on the hook. 6, 7, 8, 9 interviews. It is not uncommon. Okay? So during this time, you should be asking questions. That will form the basis of your 30, 60, 90. If you're speaking with a company and you have 3, 4, 5, 6 interviews, you should have an understanding of what their pain points are if you're asking questions. Likely, over those 6 or 7 interviews, you're meeting with different people. Ask questions, then use that and arm yourself with the information to prepare your 30, 60, 90.
Terrific, thank you. Also,
Okay.
Patrick has a question. Pat, if you'd like to unmute and ask your question of Debra.
Sure. I was curious. All of the comments many of the comments you're making, you're talking about, get it in writing, et cetera, et cetera. Do companies have levels at which they may not put the offer in writing? For example, in other words, if you're applying for a project leader position or a manager's position, is there? I guess the question is there a level at which every company will give you a written offer, or is there a level at which companies don't give you a written offer and they say, you have the job and here's what it is? Is there a level?
I've never heard of such a thing. I can't imagine why a company wouldn't be okay with extending a written offer. There's just no reason I can think of. Why won't you put it in writing? If the offer is a valid offer, it's real, they can certainly put it in writing. I've never encountered any situation in which a company would not do that or had a good reason for not doing it.
Okay, I was just curious because in years gone by, there's been positions when I was starting out, like as a programmer or a team leader, where the offer was verbally made, and yes, I got the job and went in and started working for them, but was never given a written offer that way to sit down and read it and say, okay, here are all the points. I was just curious.
Did you ask for it?
At that point in time, no. I was happy to get the job, but I've learned a little bit since then. Yes.
Yes. So yeah, ask for it and you'll get it. There's no reason why they should say no.
I mean, is that true also when it's like hourly work? Because I also believe that early on in my career, I've had job where I didn't have like an offer, but more like a salary, hourly rate. So I wonder if
It doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Hourly work still equates to a salary. It's the difference between an exempt employee and a non-exempt employee, right? If you're hourly, you get paid overtime. If you're salaried, you don't. But it doesn't really matter. Either is still an offer of employment, whether you're salaried or hourly, and there's no reason why it can't be written down. It's just referenced as an hourly rate as opposed to an annual rate.
Also, Bill has a question.
Yep.
How do I handle a situation where a recruiter is calling about an opportunity, but you are open to 2 positions, a product manager or a customer service representative, very different salary opportunities?
Right, that's a great question. So they're calling and asking you which one, or they're calling, like, I need to understand a little bit more about what their query is.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes?
I can hear you,
Okay,
yes.
so so the recruiter called me and he was calling about a position with a company.
Mhm.
He left me a message. I researched the company and I found that it wasn't it wasn't a good company to work for. So I called him back and said, hey, listen, thanks for calling me, thanks for considering me, but I've researched the company and I found that, you know, it's not a good place to work for. And he kind of, the way he expressed it, it was like he knew that this company wasn't a good place to work for. So
Mhm.
he says to me, listen, you know, I've got your resume on my desk. What types of positions are you looking for? Now, if I had my choice, it would be a product manager. But
Okay.
if at the same time, if I was able to get into a new company as
Mhm.
a customer service rep and learn from the bottom up, I would also be interested in doing that. Now, the pay level for a product manager is somewhere in the area of, let's say, $80,000. For a customer
Mhm.
service rep, it's $40,000. So how do I handle that situation?
Okay, so I think you're putting yourself at a distinct disadvantage by going after both of those things simultaneously. They're vastly different with different pay levels. And one is, it sounds like based on salary, and I don't know exactly, but one sounds like it's a little bit more junior. If you're a product manager, right? And you're saying you could do the job of a product manager and that's the role you've had, and that role is an $80,000 a year role, you should not be then going after a customer service manager position. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Like you're just putting
Yeah,
yourself in a very
yep,
awkward position.
I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah. It's just really awkward because
Okay.
then they're like, well, I don't understand. If you're a product manager, then why are you not going after that type of role? So you're sort of like shooting yourself in the foot a little bit because you're saying, well, I'm a product manager. Oh, but also I could do this customer, service thing over here. I wouldn't do that. And I don't think that that's a good brand strategy for you.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Yes, there's a question from Mitra. Is using job posts online with similar job titles to what you're looking for a good way to research salary ranges, in addition to the other tips you mentioned?
Yes, looking at job titles, yes, but with the understanding that in some organizations, the job titles don't really align. And I'll use Google as an example, okay? Because they have a very weird titling structure. And there are people there that elsewhere would be like a VP, and internally at Google, they're like a manager. The title is manager. So you just have to be careful. You have to do the research to make sure that the titles are aligned so that when you do your research, it's not skewed, to any extent one way or another.
And that makes sense. I've certainly seen titles like Manager 1, Manager 2, Manager
Yeah.
3, where it could be, Senior Vice President, Vice President. Anna has a question. Can the company email you the job offer? Some are not emailing until they see you face to face.
Can they email it? Sure. It's in writing in an email. It's the same thing as having them snail mail it to you. So yes, they can email it. I mean, that's typically, I haven't heard of anyone in recent years getting an actual letter of an offer. It's been via email, writing an email, or a Word document attached to an email, if you will.
Okay, thank you. That's the questions for now. And just a heads up, it's 10 after 11. I know you have a hard stop at 11:30.
Okay, so we will keep going. And I did talk about this, Glassdoor, PayScale, Salary.com. Use these tools. Make sure you do your research, as I've talked about. You want to, sort of comb these things, talk to other people. And to your comment about, the companies and the titles. So if you're looking at Fortune 100 companies or Fortune 500 or whatever, private companies, whatever it is, You want to do like-to-like research. And what I mean by that is don't look at a company like at a Fortune company and then compare that to a salary at a private company, because it's not going to be the same, okay? LinkedIn, as I mentioned earlier, also offers salary insights. So you know what? Don't be afraid to do the research. And if you have questions, I actually am happy to take any questions you have after this presentation if you want to speak with me, and I'm happy to provide my insights as well, or further insights if you have a deeper question. Just recognize I'm on vacation next week, just FYI. So you fake it till you make it. Research, your friend. Gambling, not. And what I mean by that is, you know, sometimes people will be like, well, I'm going to tell them that I have a counter offer, you know, with ABC company, when really they don't. Don't lie. Lying, if you lie, you have to remember your lies. And I was just asked this. I was on Good Morning New York the other day, and Rosanna Scotto asked me, is it okay to lie a little bit on your resume? No, it is not. Lying and marketing, which is what I told her, are two different things. There is a very fine line where it comes to negotiating and looking for opportunities. They can find out. If they do, it's a gamble. If they find out, you might not get the offer, and then you'll find yourself in the same position in which you started. Never gamble what you cannot afford to lose. And if you take that advice, you will always be safe. Also, oh my gosh, this is so important. Oh my goodness. Do not ever, and people ask me this all the time, well, my company counter offered me. Okay, well, if you were so fabulous before the offer from company XYZ, why didn't they give you the money already? It's ridiculous. Like now they're all of a sudden stepping up to the plate? No, that does not send a good tone. Once you've already said to company ABC, listen guys, I've loved working here. It's been wonderful. I've decided it's time to move on. I'm tendering my resignation and I'm going to be going to work for company XYZ. If they then come back and say to you, well, we're going to make you a counteroffer and we really want you to stay, that is not a reason for you to stay. You should absolutely, under no circumstances, accept a counteroffer. By doing so, you're demonstrating that you are not committed to the company. You are demonstrating that if another offer comes along, you're ready to walk. If the company runs into some sort of trouble, financially or otherwise, maybe they're acquired, whatever, you're showing them that you don't have any allegiance. And by accepting a counteroffer, you'll be the first one to go. I've seen it happen. It happens, and it will happen again. Don't accept a counter. You've already done all the work. You did the interviews. You took all the time. You prepared. You researched. You practiced. You did everything to get this other offer. Obviously, it's time to go, or you wouldn't have been looking to begin with. Don't accept counteroffers. Of course, salary is not the only factor. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. There are benefits, right? There's the culture. There's the commute. If you have to commute 2 hours, the salary might not be worth it for you. Maybe you're looking for some flexibility. Maybe you want to work from home now completely. Maybe you want to work 3 days from home. All of these things should factor into your decision-making process. It's not all about the money. You want to consider everything. The reason why it's not all about the money is because the money will come. Don't chase the money. It will come. Get things that are going to inspire you and make you happy and make you want to go to work every day. Go to work with people that you enjoy being around, right? We hear horror stories of managers, people who can't manage their way out of a paper bag, people who are bullies in the workplace, that were bullies on the playground, and now they take that to the office. You don't want to be around those people. Working for people like that, it's toxic. It's toxic for you as a person. It works on your emotional well-being. It works on your mental well-being, all things that you need to be happy and productive. You don't want to go to a place just for the money. If you get the inner voice telling you that it's combat pay, you're probably right. And while everybody, yes, they're loving on the money, They get there and 6 months later, they're like, I can't take this anymore. So don't chase the money. Negotiations are expected. It is a standard thing. Don't be afraid to do it. It shouldn't take a year. This should be like a couple of day long thing. Limit the negotiations. Don't let it drag on. Eventually, the final offer is the final offer, and you should either decide to take it or not. Knowing how to negotiate, when to negotiate is just as important as knowing when to accept something or walk away. So the toolkit, the ultimate toolkit: research, be likable, be friendly, keep a level head, be productive, be prepared. Counter offers, no, nix the counter offer. Your salary negotiation is only part of the offer. There are other things, as we discussed. There's benefits and work from home. There's, car allowance, there's vacation, there's sign-on bonus, there's other ways to get money if in fact you can't actually get it in your salary. And sometimes, you know what, sometimes it's just not a fit. And if you feel that way and you're feeling the red flags, you're sensing them, then don't be afraid to walk away and pursue something else. The next thing is out there, I can assure you. Thank you, guys. It was really a pleasure speaking with you this morning. My name is Debra Wheatman. My company is Careers Done Right. I am happy to entertain further questions. And again, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Debra. So now's the time to ask a question while we still have a few more minutes with Debra, and literally just a few more minutes because she has an 11:30 appointment and she needs a few extra minutes. Thanks for posting your contact information. I did also put that in chat for everybody, although I used your other work number, not that number.
Okay.
But the email is right and the website. And Debra will be providing her slides a little bit later to all of us, and I'll post that. So, John, I saw you unmuted yourself. Did you have a question for Debra?
No, just a thank you. No, just a thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. So, going once, going twice. If you've got a question, kind of just digitally raise your hand if you'd like. Oops, and Alex, is that Alex?
Yes, I have a comment. First of all, I love Debra's presentations, and I cannot tell you how many of them I've attended in the last many years. So Debra, compliments.
Thank you, Alex.
I also do salary negotiations, and I want to share with the group something that salary negotiations, a little bit of art, a little bit of science, but definitely both of them. And I had this at the beginning of the week, an incredibly wonderful conversation with an individual. The last time I spoke with him was 49 years ago. We were both students at Cornell. I was working on my bachelor's degree. He was working on his PhD degree. So he was telling me that because he had a PhD, he was a PhD student, but he had an MBA. He talked with somebody at the university and they said, well, we may give you a job and we will pay you so much. What you need to know that in America, when you talk about the job, it's a yearly job. We quote yearly salary. In Israel, when you talk about the job, you always talk about monthly salary. So he was a kind of just looking at the person talking with him. He had to divide that number into 12. Also, he had to convert it into the Israeli money. The individual that made an offer interpreted it like he's not happy with it. So without even asking, he said, oh, perhaps we can pay you more. And actually, we can give you even a parking spot next to the building. So my point here is there is an art in negotiation, not only a science.
Yeah, interesting observation. You're right. And but you know what Debra talked about, you have the potential, or the friend you have, to leave money on the table. And this is the opportunity to negotiate. They expect it. It's not a surprise, at least in America, and maybe other countries could be a little different. If you are an expat from another country where maybe it's not as acceptable, realize in the United States, it's understandable. There are times, like Debra said, during the offer process or a few months before they do their annual salary review, where you can make your case and show that there is a reason why you should get a little bit extra money, or other options as well, you know, flexible work hours or sign-on bonus or expense reimbursement. So now's the time to do it. And this was so comprehensive and thorough, Debra. I just love this presentation. Besides, I just love that you're such a supporter of job seeker groups in PSG of Mercer County.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
So Dave, I was wondering if Debra could to speak a bit more about setting the stage for a salary increase and not waiting for the annual review. I think that that might be something that will be very beneficial, because oftentimes we are told that we have to wait the review to get a salary, and if we are lucky enough, the increase will match the inflation rate, which is really not a story in itself. So to me, this is a novel concept. So if you maybe share more on that, that would be great.
So an off-cycle salary review is what I hear you asking. You can always ask for a salary increase. You don't have to wait till your annual review. But again, back to my original point about the 30, 60, 90, I would prepare the elements of not only what you've done, but what you're going to do, and use that as the basis to negotiate an off-cycle review. A lot of companies, if I'm being honest, they will say that they will, you know, they'll take it into consideration during the review period, but that shouldn't stop you from asking for an off-cycle review if in fact it's something that you believe that you deserve in advance. And companies do off-cycle evaluations and increases. They do them.
Debra, I have just another quick question. It's often said it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. How do you believe in that, and how important is that?
I think it's very important. I think, you know, every conversation that you have around these things, and just a lot of things in business generally, right? You can ask for something that maybe somebody doesn't want to do, but how you ask for it will could yield a good result. And that's true in negotiations as well. You don't want to go in demanding things, is my point. You want to go in and say, you know, I've been thinking about this, and I would like to share with you some of the really wonderful work that I've done and what the result has been for our department. If you're going to go in with examples of how your work has delivered measurable, meaningful value and realized results, then the proof is in the pudding, right? Versus saying, I want an increase and I believe I deserve it because, you know, whatever reason. People are not going to be receptive to that type of engagement or interaction. They will be receptive, however, if you go in with a much more approachable demeanor and examples of how your work has added value.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
All right, folks. Well, as we wrap up, I want to thank Debra once again, and I have to stop thanking you because I know you have to leave, and if I keep thanking you, you won't leave. But certainly thank you. Another point that I heard that resonated with me was that you just don't negotiate to win. And the saying that I use is you negotiate to win-win. It's a compromise. You both get a little, you both give a little, because at the end of the negotiation, you do have to work with these people, and you don't want it to be contentious at all. So keep that in mind. And you'll be working with these people 8+ hours a day. Hopefully, you'll be getting back into the office, but you need to work with them. So I thought that was
the principle of givers get, right? That's the principle.
The only time you can really negotiate to win is when you're never going to see the other person again. So if you're selling a used car, your own used car, you can hold out for the price you want because you'll sell it and you'll never see that buyer again, and that's fine. But in job search and employment, you want to be, you give a little and get a little. But so I thought that was another very interesting point. So as we wrap up, just want to let you know who's visiting us over the next couple of weeks. Next week, July 30th, I am just so pleased to let you know that we're going to have a conversation with Jerry Crispin. Jerry is a true authority in HR. He does a tremendous amount of research all around the world. He's going to have a conversation with us. What is it about your journey to find your next adventure? So that's what Jerry's going to be here. It's a real treat that we have the opportunity to speak with Jerry. I hope you can join us. So that's next week, July 30th. The following week is July 6th. Ken Scher will be here, career coach Ken Scher, to survive and survive after a job loss when you're 50 plus or minus years old. So he'll be talking about ageism, a topic on a lot of people's minds. And also the Saturday the 14th, August 14th, so a few weeks away, the Breakfast Club of New Jersey will be meeting 8 o'clock in the morning. Ed Hahn, recruiter Ed Hahn, will be presenting LinkedIn, how recruiters use it. So if you're interested in learning how recruiters use LinkedIn, then you can use LinkedIn more effectively to meet the way they use them. So that'll be handy, Saturday the 14th of August at 8 o'clock in the morning. New Jersey Job Seekers meets every Tuesday evening at 7:30 to about 9, so you're welcome to join. I did post the meeting link in our PSG of Mercer County LinkedIn group, so it's posted there right now, and it's the same link they use every week. Our cousin organizations, PSG of Central New Jersey, which is psgcnj.biz, psgcnj.biz, meets Mondays at 10:30 in the morning, and PSG of Morris County meets Wednesdays at 9:30 in the morning, psgmc.org, psgmc.org. So once again, thank you very much to Debra. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm glad you were able to hear this wonderful presentation. And we will be keeping the meeting room open, but I'll stop the recording in just a moment and simply say, I hope to see you all very soon. Maybe even virtually. Have a terrific week off, Debra. So you told us that you're going away, so I hope you enjoy that. And until we get to see all of us once again, I'll simply say, bye, everybody.